Roscoe Industries Trust for Education presents Roscoe Proof, the Maiden and Merville story. The connection between German rocketry and alien technology is disputed by few. When one discounts 5,000 years of Chinese rocketry, the advances made by Nazi Germany by the end of World War II have for years been seen as having received intelligence from beyond. But now, industrialist and real estate man DT Roscoe believes he's discovered tangible proof of the passing of knowledge between aliens and the German military in the beginning days of World War I. Roscoe Trust has reproduced the model of a first-hand account of this mind transfer as witnessed and written in a diary by a French maiden on the day of October 3rd, 1915. The diary, acquired by the great-uncle of D.T. Roscoe, Paul Roscoe, and this idea that the most important evidence of alien-human mind transfer would end up being from a relative of D.T. Roscoe seems like a cosmic or mystical joke on humanity. But regardless, the German soldier picked up the diary from a destroyed farmhouse on his retreat in 1918, and he brought it back to his home in Naumburg, Germany, where it lay neglected until his death in 1984. The diary was bequeathed to his great-nephew, D.T. Roscoe, who, simply for curiosity's sake, had it translated in 2012. According to Roscoe, most of the entries are the meanderings of a simple and poor French girl, but this October 3rd, 1915 entry will certainly change the world. As DT points out here, in 1915, Merville, France was the home of an obscure German aerodrome. The Germans had many small airports on French soil, and this one does not stand out to historians for any reason until now. According to the Maiden, she heard the familiar roar of a German plane landing, and she rushed to her normal spot to view the plane about 200 meters from the hangar zone. She was surprised and excited to see it was the famous Manfred von Richthofen, or the Red Baron. Two attendants rushed out to take his plane in, and at that moment, the Maiden's diary describes three small translucent-like beings that came out from behind the Baron, and they took control of the two attendants. Now, we interrupt the story briefly for some background information that D.T. Roscoe has uncovered about the two attendants that turns this story into perhaps the greatest story of the 20th century. German Air Force records show that in October of 1915, there were two attendants manning the field at Merville. One was Hans Friedrich Karl Franz Klammer, who would go on to guide the V-2 rocket projects in World War II. The other attendant was, according to Roscoe researchers, Hermann Oberth, who would write a book on rocketry that would fascinate a young Werner von Braun. The same von Braun who would go on to lead the United States rocket program to the moon. However, the Maiden's unbelievable diary entry reads that the Red Baron seemed to be familiar with the creatures, and this prior involvement with them, and a mind-boggling revelation, not to be covered here, that showed the Red Baron actually had a role in transferring Aubert and Klammer to Merville, will certainly be an issue for further inquiry. Now that we know the background of the German soldiers, the remaining account from the Maiden of Merville's diary is hereby presented. The Maiden wrote that the small creatures surrounded the two attendants. Then the whiter one lay down on the ground, and a bright glowing light surrounded his head. This light passed over the other two, and we now recreate this pivotal, historic moment here. For the first time, the mind meld of human and aliens recreated. After it was complete, the creatures seemed to have disappeared, and the two attendants, we now know as Klammer and Oberth, seemed unfazed, and they put the airplane away in an uneventful fashion, according to the Maiden. And then, As we all know, those two would go on to lead the world in rocket technology, culminating with landing a man on the moon in 1969. Has DT Roscoe and the blind luck or cosmic synchronicity stumbled on the most ironclad evidence of an alien-human technology exchange? What are the implications of this event? And what more information might be in the diary of the Maiden of Merville? There are simply too many questions to answer now.